Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So our mission today is really cutting through some of that web development complexity. We want to give you the ultimate shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever had this brilliant idea,
Mm-hmm.
right, like a new landing page, maybe a report, or even just a nice-looking blog,
Yeah.
but then you just stopped
Yeah.
because the thought of wrestling with, custom CSS and aligning divs just
Yeah.
made you want to quit, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, we're diving deep into Bootstrap today. And you should think of it less like just a library and more like
Yeah.
a universal toolkit, almost prefabricator.
Okay.
It's open source, a web design framework, and we're going to really understand how it gives you this huge head start. It provides all these like pre-coded CSS classes and JavaScript plugins, basically everything you need to build a responsive, professional-looking site fast.
And it's got a pretty cool history too, right? It wasn't just some startup thing.
No, not at all.
It actually came from inside Twitter. They needed, well, a unified look and feel for all their internal tools and projects.
Right. Consistency.
Exactly. So they built this system. And then back in 2011, they open sourced it. And it just like exploded, became a global standard almost overnight. It's why it's so solid today.
And that original goal, consistency, that really drives its main feature, responsiveness. We hear that word all the time.
Constantly.
Yeah, but let's, break it down simply. Responsiveness isn't really about speed, not directly anyway.
Okay.
It means the website layout automatically adapts. It sort of shapeshifts, you could say, to look good, whether you're looking at it on a tiny phone screen or a huge desktop monitor.
So the layout just makes the best use of whatever space it has. Like it rearranges itself.
Precisely. It'll use a different layout on a small mobile screen compared to, say, an iPad or a desktop. That ensures everything's readable, usable, without having to pinch and zoom or scroll sideways like crazy.
Okay.
That optimization, that's the magic of Bootstrap, really.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The core value.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about starting a new project, maybe something simple. What does Bootstrap give me, like right away?
Immediately, you get to skip all the tedious stuff, the grunt work.
Okay.
You get attractive, functional bits and pieces, like stylish buttons, ready-to-go navigation bars, decent typography out of the box, placeholders for sliders, image carousels.
Those you'd normally spend hours styling.
Exactly. All the basic CSS and even the JavaScript needed for some interactivity, it's all included. But the really key thing about modern Bootstrap, say version 5 and onwards, is its shift towards this utility-first approach.
Utility first. Okay, that sounds a bit like jargon. What does that actually mean for someone learning this?
Yeah, good question. It basically means we're moving a bit away from these huge predefined components and focusing more on tiny, reusable, single-purpose classes. So, for example, making a button blue, the primary style.
Right.
Used to just slap on one big class. Now you can still do that. The classic syntax is still there, like button class, BTN primary. That works.
And that alone saves a ton of time.
Right.
Now, not writing custom CSS for padding, color, hover effects.
Totally. But here's where the utility-first idea comes in and addresses a common worry.
Which is?
Well, if everyone just uses BTN primary, don't all Bootstrap sites end up looking kind of the same? A bit generic?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I've seen that criticism.
Exactly. And that was definitely more true of older versions, but that's why the framework evolved, because it now relies so heavily on these small utility classes, which we'll dig into more later. You can customize things much more easily.
How so?
You still get the structural benefits, the grid, the basic components, but if you decide, hey, I want my primary buttons to be purple, not blue, you just override one tiny variable, like a CSS custom property, in your own style sheet.
Okay.
And boom, every single primary button across your whole site updates instantly. You get your unique look without ditching the solid foundation Bootstrap gives you.
Okay, that makes sense. That synergy is key. So the benefits are pretty clear then.
Yep.
Built-in classes, flexibility, works on all modern browsers. And wasn't it like the third most starred project on GitHub or something?
Yeah, it's huge. Which tells you that community support is massive and it's constantly being developed and improved. Rock solid.
Right.
Plus that powerful grid system we're about to get into. That's really what sets it apart from just, buying a simple template. If you get the grid, you can build basically anything.
Okay, let's talk setup. How do you actually start using it?
So to start, you need what we call the Bootstrap skeleton. It's your basic HTML structure, but there are two things you absolutely need for responsiveness to work.
Okay, what are they?
First, the meta viewport tag. It looks like meta name viewport content with device width initial scale 1.0. You put that in the head of your HTML.
And what did that do?
It's basically telling the browser, hey, pay attention. This page is designed to be responsive. Don't just shrink the whole thing down to fit the screen. It's like the essential handshake.
Got it. Handshake with the browser. And the second
You
thing,
need to actually link to the Bootstrap files.
right, the CSS and the JavaScript.
Exactly. You link the Bootstrap CSS file, usually in the head, so the styles apply right away. And then because Bootstrap has interactive components like dropdowns or, pop-up tooltips, you need its JavaScript. Those script tags usually go near the end of the body.
Why at the end?
It's generally better for performance.
Yeah.
The browser loads and renders your page content first, then it loads and parses the JavaScript. So the user sees the page faster, even if the interactive bits take a fraction longer to become active.
Okay, that makes sense. So skeleton setup. Now, the grid system. This is where it gets really interesting, right? Especially if you remember the old days of trying to align things.
Oh, yeah. If you ever fought with CSS floats, trying to get columns to line up, manually calculating percentage widths, you'll appreciate this.
Okay, wait.
The grid is Bootstrap's engine for responsiveness. It's built on a really simple concept, a 12-column layout.
12 columns. Why 12?
12 is great because it's easily divisible. You can have 2 columns of 6, 3 columns of 4, 4 columns of 3, 6 columns of 2, or 12 columns of 1. Lots of flexibility.
Oh.
So the structure is, you start with a container. Or you can use container fluid if you want it to stretch the full width of the screen.
Right.
Inside the container, you put row elements. And then inside the rows, that's where your content goes. Inside call elements for columns.
Container, row, column. Simple enough.
And the total number of columns within any row should ideally add up to 12. It forces you to think in these nice modular blocks.
I definitely remember trying to get like 3 equal columns perfectly aligned and just pulling my hair out. The 12-column idea seems like solves that instantly.
It pretty much does. And the big reason it works so smoothly now, especially in Bootstrap 5, is that it's built entirely with Flexbox.
Flexbox. That's a more modern CSS layout method, right? Instead of the old floats.
Exactly. Floats were tricky. Flexbox makes alignment, both horizontal and vertical, incredibly simple. Bootstrap gives you utility classes for it, like dflex to turn on flex behavior, and others to easily center things or space them out within a row. Much easier.
Okay, let's get really clear on the breakpoints. You mentioned responsiveness relies on adapting to screen size. How does Bootstrap define those sizes? Understanding these seems crucial.
Absolutely. Think of screen sizes like t-shirt sizes. Bootstrap has names for them, and you use these names in your classes to tell the layout how to behave. There are 6 default tiers or breakpoints.
6, okay.
Yeah. There's extra small X's, which is kind of the default for phones. It's implied if you don't specify anything else. Then small S's for screens 576 pixels wide and up.
Like bigger phones, maybe small tablets?
Kinda, yeah. Then medium MD, that's 768 pixels and up, often your standard tablet size. Large LG is 992 pixels and up. Extra large is 1200 pixels and up. And finally, extra large for really big desktop monitors.
XS, SM, MD, LG, XL, XXL.
Got it. So how do you use those?
You combine them with the column classes. For
Yeah.
example, if you write div class colMD4, you're telling Bootstrap, okay, starting at the medium breakpoint 768 and going up, make this div take up 4 out of the 12 available columns. So a third of the width's on tablets and desktops.
Yeah.
But what happens on smaller screens, like phones, XS or SM?
By default, if you only specify colMD4 on screens smaller than medium, it will automatically stack. Each column will take up the full width, one below the other.
Which is usually exactly what you want on a narrow phone screen for readability.
Precisely. You get that mobile-first behavior built in, you code it once using these size-specific classes, and you control how the layout reflows across every single device. That's the real power.
Okay, grid system understood. Now let's talk components. These are the real time savers, right? The things that stop you needing to write loads of custom CSS or JavaScript.
Definitely. These are the pre-built widgets. Let's start with some simple ones that manage user experience, like breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel.
Sort of. They show the user their path through the site hierarchy, like home products, gadgets, this specific gadget.
So you don't get lost.
Exactly. Prevents that where am I feeling on complex sites. Simple list items styled nicely with a Bootstrap class.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
What else?
How about alerts? You know those little colored boxes for messages?
Oh yeah, for like success messages or error warnings.
Right. And the clever part is the built-in color coding, which everyone understands. You use classes that convey meaning instantly. Alert success is green.
For good job.
Alert warning is yellowy orange.
For, careful.
And alert danger is red.
For something broke.
Exactly. It's standardized visual communication, not just decoration. Saves you styling pop-ups from scratch.
Nice. And I saw pagination mentioned too, like page numbers at the bottom of a long list.
Yep. Think of a big table of results or a blog archive, building the controls to show page 1, 2, 3, and letting users jump to page 10. That's normally a fiddly JavaScript task.
Yeah, I can imagine.
With Bootstrap, it's basically just a styled list of links. You add a few classes, pagination, and page item, and the complex styling and layout are done for you.
Okay, so breadcrumbs, alerts, pagination, this handle navigation and feedback. What about pure styling shortcuts? You mentioned utility classes earlier.
Right, this is the modern Bootstrap philosophy. The idea is avoid writing custom CSS whenever possible by using these small, single-purpose utility classes.
Like cheat codes for CSS.
Pretty much. Take colors. We mentioned the alert colors, but you can apply background colors anywhere. BG Primary gives you that standard Bootstrap blue background on any element. Biggie's Danger gives you red.
And text colors too.
Yep, text success for green text, text warning for yellow text. You build up styles using these simple functional class names instead of making up your own CSS rules like my special blue box every time.
That seems way faster. And what about spacing, margins and padding? That's always tedious.
Oh, the spacing utilities are fantastic. My personal favorites. They use a simple shorthand, M for margin, P for padding.
Okay.
Then you specify the direction, T for top, B for bottom, S for start, left in most languages, E for end, right, X for the horizontal axis, left and right, and Y for the vertical axis, top and bottom, or leave it blank for all sides.
Oh, okay. So MT2 would be margin top.
Exactly. And the number, like 2 or 3 or 5, corresponds to predefined spacing amounts. So P3 adds padding on all 4 sides. MX Auto is a super common one. It adds automatic left and right margins, which centers block-level content horizontally.
MX Auto for centering. I need to remember that one. And these work with the breakpoints too.
Absolutely. You can do MSMD3. That means add margin to the start, left side, size 3, but only starting at the medium breakpoint. On smaller screens, that margin won't be there. Incredible control.
That is powerful. Thinking in utilities, it feels different. So you could add borders the same way.
Yep. Border adds a standard border. Border top 0 removes just the top border. Rounded adds a slight border radius to soften the corners. Rounded pill makes something capsule-shaped.
Wow. Okay, that really does eliminate a huge chunk of what used to go into a custom CSS file.
Easily 80% for basic styling, I'd say.
Yeah.
Now, should we talk about the really complex stuff, the components that would normally involve significant JavaScript?
Yeah, let's hit those. The ones that feel like magic, like the carousel, the image slideshow thing.
That's the classic example. Building a slideshow from scratch that actually works well, handles transitions smoothly, has next prev buttons, maybe little dot indicators, works with touch swipes on mobile, is accessible. It's not trivial.
Weeks of work, maybe?
Could be. With Bootstrap. You add a div with the class carousel and maybe slide. Then you structure the inner items with carousel inner and carousel item. Add your images. Done.
Seriously, all the controls and transitions work.
Yeah, all the JavaScript event listeners, the sliding animation, it's all baked in. You can even add the class carousel fade if you prefer a crossfade transition instead of sliding. Instantly enabled, works everywhere.
That's amazing. What else is like that?
Collapse. You know when you click something and more information expands or hides?
Like for FAQs or maybe hiding advanced settings?
Exactly. Building that toggle behavior, animating the height smoothly, it's usually a JavaScript task. With Bootstrap, it becomes a simple data bees toggle collapse attribute on your button, linked to the ID of the content you want to show or hide.
So the framework handles the state change and the animation.
Correct. Super useful for accordions, too, where only one section is open at a time. And, of course, forms. Making HTML forms look decent is always a pain.
Oh, yeah. Default browser forms are ugly.
Right. Bootstrap provides clean, consistent styling for all form elements, inputs, selects, checkboxes, radio buttons. You use wrapper classes like form group or just margin utilities now for spacing. And the class form control on the inputs themselves applies the standard styling. Makes them look professional immediately.
Okay, so carousels, collapse, forms.
Yeah.
Huge time savers.
Yeah.
Now, what about things that have changed? I remember something called a Jumbotron. Big gray box.
Ah, the Jumbotron. Yes, that's a great example of how Bootstrap evolves. In older versions of Bootstrap 3 and 4, it was a specific component, a big padded container designed to grab attention, usually on a homepage.
I remember those.
But it was actually removed as a dedicated component in Bootstrap 5.
Removed? Why? People still need big attention-grabbing boxes.
They do, but The reason it was removed reflects that shift to utility-first thinking. The Bootstrap team realized you don't need a special Jumbotron component anymore
Why not?
because you can achieve the exact same visual effect just by using a standard div element and combining it with the utility classes we just talked about.
Ah, so you'd add like padding utilities, P5, maybe a background color utility, VDL light, maybe some text utilities.
Exactly. You build the Jumbotron look yourself using these small, flexible utility classes. It's simpler, gives you more control, and keeps the framework itself leaner because there isn't a specific, somewhat rigid Jumbotron component anymore. It's a perfect illustration of the new philosophy.
That makes a lot of sense. More flexible, less prescriptive.
Precisely. So, wrapping it all up, what does this actually mean for you, the developer or designer? Bootstrap essentially gives you this incredibly solid foundation. You get responsive layout, mobile friendliness right out of the gate because all that CSS and JavaScript boilerplate is just done.
Right.
It takes complex things like a navigation bar that collapses on mobile or an image carousel and simplifies them down to adding a few predefined classes. It encourages you to stop sweating the small stuff, the pixel-perfect alignment across browsers,
Which can be a nightmare.
and lets you think more like a designer, arranging these pre-styled modular blocks to build your page.
And that flexibility, plus the huge library of other components we didn't even cover in detail, cards, drop-downs, badges, modals, it just means you can build almost any kind of website much, much faster. You spend your time on the actual content,
Yeah.
the user's journey, not fighting basic CSS.
Totally. Which leads to a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Since Bootstrap, especially with its grid system, kind of forces you to think in terms of these breakpoints, those XS, SM, MD, LG, XL, XXL tiers right from the start, how does that fundamentally change the way you design a layout, even before you write any code? What does it mean for you to start thinking about the mobile view, that smallest XS breakpoint, first, and then plan how your design will scale up from there, rather than the old way of designing for desktop and then trying to shrink it down?
Designing mobile first because the tool encourages it. That's
Yeah.
definitely something to think about.
It shifts your whole perspective.